Welcome to our Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth first mock Seder. And it's really great to see everyone. We have a lot of people will be participating with us. I'm just going to mute everybody, and you're welcome to unmute when your time comes. And we're very excited about this program. I want to thank Steve Gold and his committee for putting it all together and for inspiring this entire idea. So let me share a screen with you for some exciting pictures and images as well. So ASBEE's mock Seder. Now, you might say that today is kind of completely random to have a Seder 15 days before Purim actually starts. But actually it's not so strange that we're doing this on this particular day. Why? Because the Haggadah actually says you might think that you would tell the children on Rosh Chodesh, and yet the Torah says no. You should tell them on that day. You should tell them about Pesach on the night of Pesach, when all the matzah and the maror are there, and everybody's sitting there. So the Haggadah actually considers the idea that today on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that's the most appropriate time. That's when we should be doing the mock Seder. That's when we should start telling our children about the exciting news of the Exodus from Egypt. So welcome to everybody, this mock Seder, and we're going to do what the Haggadah thought we should do, to get ready 2 weeks before, as I'm sure many of you are getting ready today. Our first part of our program is a Seder plate demonstration. This particular Seder plate is from Germany in the 1800s, and it says there that God heard our voice, He heard our cry. And isn't that interesting that only God would have heard our cries in Germany a century later, we would be much better off for it. But I wanted to call on several people to tell us about their Seder plates or their artistic aspects of Pesach in their homes. So we're going to call on a couple of our special friends to tell us about their Seder plates and artwork as well. So I'm going to call on Malcolm and Timna Myers, and then Dr. Bocciaffi, if he's with us, and also Iris Harvey to tell us about their Seder plates or special artistic elements of Pesach for them. So let me just spotlight Myers, and please share with us.
Okay.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, everybody. I have here my grandmother's Pesach plate that she brought from Lithuania to South Africa in 1928 when she left Lithuania. She had made another trip back to Lithuania but come back later, but the Pesach plate came with her. Now, I brought this Pesach plate all the way to America. Her trip from Lithuania to South Africa resulted in no damage to the plate. However, from South Africa to America, there's some small damage to it, and I'm going to have a restorer repair it. I'm going to show you an image of the Pesach plate.
Very similar to what you showed us, 1800s.
Now the one that I have over here is not as finished and artistically designed as the other. It is very much the work on here is a lot more crude than on the exhibit that you showed. My grandmother was born in 1880, and she apparently must have received this as a gift from either her parents or her husband. And she treasured it, and she brought with her. I'm lucky enough, as I was the favorite grandson, I got this. And the wording on it is exactly the same. The artistic part is not very, very refined. It's not done by, it must have been done by an amateur artist. The plate itself looks like pewter. However, it's actually German silver, which is made up of copper, nickel, and zinc. And it's actually not a very expensive silver. The real value lies in its age, and because it's a family heirloom, it is definitely it's not for resale. It's a very valued part of my family history, and every Pesach we would have it on the table, and my dad would explain what all the parts were to us when I was a kid. I was an only child, so I was terribly spoiled. I got a lot of input from a lot of people. And that is my part of the story. I have my grandmother's passport here. My Boba Ada, I called her. This is her Lithuania passport. Okay. She was an amazing little lady. I adored her. She lived with my parents, and so I knew her from the day I was born. And she was born, that's her over there. You can see her picture. She even signed it in Ivrit or Yiddish, as she would call it. And she died in 1969. So she lived a very long life. Has a very interesting passport with a lot of places she visited on her way to South Africa. And so this plate has a terrific meaning to me. And the fact that every Pesach I would discuss this with my sons and my grandchildren has given me a lot of very, very good feelings about it. I don't know if Tim has anything to say, but I've said my bit. Thank you.
Right. Well, if it wasn't, I'd just like to add that if it wasn't for Linny, we wouldn't have realized the age of this plate, because we had this plate, and just before, about a week ago, I sent Linny an image of it, and she connected me with a site, a historical site, which showed that the plate was from 1870, and we were staggered. I guess we weren't quite sure how old it was, so it just added an extra dimension to our treasured piece. Thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing the other Seder plates.
Thank you. I thought I was reading on there that it was from Tafkuf Samach Pei. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah, you might be right. I see. Yes. So that sounds about right. 1817, something like that. Very, very good. Fantastic. That's beautiful. Yeah, it says right there the year is right there in the middle.
Yes. I thought that we could determine that. Thank you.
And around the sides, it has the 10 simanim, the song Kadesh Uchatz, Karbas Yachatz, all the different things. Thank you so much. And now I'll turn to Iris. If Butch Yaffe is on, let him text me that he's on, and I'll turn to Iris. I'll just ask you to unmute. Press your unmute button on the bottom left, and it will spotlight you. And you'll share with us some artistic story.
Welcome, everyone. Rabbi, if you could focus on what I have, not me, that would be great. I don't know how you do that. Well, I guess I
just show it. Yeah, just put it where your face is.
All right. Oops. Yeah. I have a contemporary plate that is from Israel because I wasn't lucky enough, like Malcolm, to be handed down anything that was from my family or Ronald's family. But I do have this modern plate that I will try to show you. How do I do this, Rabbi?
Where your face is, that's where it needs to be. Or you can point the computer toward the item. The top of the computer is the...
It's my phone. Oh, I see. Okay, here we go. All right.
There you go.
All right. This is a contemporary plate from Israel, and it is Israeli stone with crystal bowls for the six, and it's really not as interesting historically, except it's just meaningful to me because we've used it in my house. And as you know, I have a very contemporary house, so I love the fact that it's so contemporary. But in talking to Steve, I told him what I would like to feature is a picture of what my dining room looks like, a painting I did, and the title of the painting is The Best Memories Happen in the Dining Room. And our best memories truly have been the holidays that have happened in my dining room, particularly Seders. And this is a small rendition because there's not 50 people, but usually I manage to get 50 people in my dining room. And as you know, I love to decorate and I love to paint. And so it's always sort of an artistic Seder. And Ron and I have been very fortunate to have all of our children close by to Alam and to Israel, which kind of messed things up, except it's good for him. But we have many people and young people in all ages. And that has been our tradition since since I was first married, because my mother-in-law couldn't do it anymore, and I inherited the Seders when I was very young. And so I grew up with having the Seders, and each year I tried to expand on it. But this is just this is a memory. The painting is about how I feel all those special memories that I'm so thankful for, that I hope my children carry forward, because they have the warmth and love that was always there at the Seder. And so that is basically what I have to say, except I just hope we're all fortunate to be together again.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you to the Meyers for sharing both the contemporary and the historical Seder plate with you. Dr. Yaffe is actually out of town, but he said that it was similar to the plate behind me. So if you'd like to just share a brief thought, Dr. Yaffe, and then we'll go on with the children in just a moment. Yes.
Yes,
Dr.
Rabbi,
Yaffe.
thank you. I appreciate being able to participate, and hello to everybody. The Seder plate that we use is the one that is very, very similar to the one that is right in back of you. As you moved over to the side, this was a Seder plate that I don't know if it's still available today. The one that I used was when I was way back in Yeshiva in Israel 60 years ago, and as a present to my family, I bought the Seder plate and brought it back to Memphis from Baltimore. And as you see in the Seder plate there, it has quite a lot of different wording on it with some pictures, and then each part of the Seder plate was in small little dishes like this that you can put the charosis and the beitza and the bone and so forth, the egg. And we had used that consistently until my parents passed away. And I have the original Seder plate. As I said, I don't know. It may even be available to people to buy today, but it has been passed down for 60 years. And hopefully, please God, we'll be using it again in 10 days. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bush, and I wish you well and your son, everyone back there. Hope everyone is well there.
I'll be
thank
available.
You so much.
I'll be available to read when you need me.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Yes. Okay, great. And we now continue with our Seder. Hold on one second. So we saw some Seder plates, and this is a Seder plate that was given during Memphis in May. Once highlighted Morocco. So the Moroccan government gave this to me because I was one of the speakers at the JCC at a little program there, and this is carved from the Museum of Moroccan Government, and it has a Sephardic saying on it. It's called "B'vihilu yatzanu mitzrayim." It's not something Ashkenazic Jews say, but the Rambam begins the Seder by saying that we left Egypt in great haste. One of the main themes of the Seder, we left in great haste. Here it has the karpas here, the charoset there, which we'll see in a moment. The beitza here, the egg here, the zroa, the shank bone there. It's a little different than what I'll show you in just a moment. There are two basic ways of having a Seder plate, but you'll find many others, and it's okay if it's not exactly like this. But the mother, Moshe Isserlis from Krakow, he thought that you should try to avoid passing over your mitzvahs. So you want to have the karpas right there because it's one of the first things, and the salt water. And then you put the matzahs on the plate. That's unusual. And then the maror and the charoset would be next. And since you're not going to eat the shank bone or the egg, you put them in the back. However, most people follow the Ari, the great mystic from Tzfat. They put the egg and the shank bone in the back. They put the maror in the middle. They put the karpas on the left, the charoset on the right, and the chazeret down here. And I'll show you that on my little Seder plate that I arranged for the occasion. I hope you can see this. I am going to show this on here. So we have the egg over here, roasted egg, and I actually have a piece of meat. Actually, this is a vegetarian meat, but I want to show you that if you can't get a bone, you could just use meat. Then the maror, the actual, sometimes you use the ground meat or slices of the root and the middle. and then the horseradish at the bottom, and the lettuce, the romaine lettuce, and this is a special charoset we'll talk about later. This the special Rambam charoset, and then the celery over here, the celery or parsley over there. So that's my particular little Seder plate over here. I hope you could see it. I know it's a little clunky. But going back to our presentation, we the Seder plate of the Ari has the matzahs underneath. Some Seder plates have a way to put the 3 matzahs underneath, the 3 matzahs underneath your Seder plate, and these things on top. Some Seder plates actually have 10 items, including salt water, which gives them a total of the 10 sfirot, the mystical meanings of Pesach. This one's pretty good. You got the karpas, the vegetable on the left. You got the charoset on the right, the egg over there on the left, shank bone on the right, and the horseradish in the middle. Whereas the leaves, the bitter herbs, the romaine is on the bottom. So that's another one. I wouldn't get adjustment to that one. I would put that more in the middle, but a lot of people have it in a circle, as we saw on the plate at the very beginning. All right, well, moving along from there, we have this is my contemporary plate that Bloom and I bought when Rachel was a baby. We went and we got this, and I always move the mower down from the top, and I put it in the middle. That way it would follow the rules we saw before. It's a glass plate, and it has little glass plates you can put, as Butch mentioned, in each little section. You can put the glass plates. That's always fun if you have little glass plates to go with it. So here's a question for the crowd. What do you use for karpas? Please unmute yourself and tell us, what do you use for karpas, for the vegetable that you dip at the beginning of the Seder? Anybody?
I think we used romaine last year.
Romaine?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. The Talmud has that. That means you're eating maror at the beginning and maror at the end. So it's interesting. Anybody else?
My father came from Poland, and he always used a potato.
Very good. I brought a potato just to demonstrate.
A boiled potato. Boiled potato.
In Europe, they didn't have fresh parsley. Let's picture Memphis. How are you going to get fresh parsley? It just turned warm 5 days ago. So you're not going to get the fresh parsley. You're not going to get celery. So in Europe, they had potatoes from last winter, last summer, and they would use the potato. So that's a very legitimate Ashkenazic way to do it. Anybody else?
Yes, we did potato.
Who's that?
Faye Levine.
Oh, Faye, hi. Yes,
And
potato, good.
It always tasted so good because we were so hungry at that time of the night.
Yes, I have made a suggestion that if you have a very anxious crowd, rather than rushing your Seder, give them a lot of vegetables to eat. There is a custom based on very punctilious law to only eat a small piece of karpas, but if you want, give them as much karpas as they want, keep them full so they won't complain, and you can continue to ask questions. Anybody else? Yes.
Parsley.
Yes.
The Lubins. Parsley.
Parsley. You're parsley fans. Great. 2 points for the parsley club. What else? Anybody else?
My problem with parsley is it makes me hungrier. It's actually, when I eat parsley, I get hungrier. It's there's something about it. I think that's why it's like an appetizer, very often, and it's supposed to make you hungry. So we use, celery does almost the same effect on me. So that suggestion of giving a lot of karpas doesn't work for me. So.
Yes, the rabbis would like that. Something that makes you more hungry, so that when you eat the matzah, you'll be really hungry and you'll really enjoy that matzah more than usual. Anybody else? Any other?
We use
options?
parsley.
Use fork.
Go ahead.
Great.
I don't want to talk anymore.
All right. Great. All right. The celery has a certain advantage because in Hebrew it spells 60, which is one of the letters that was in the date on the Malcolm's Seder plate. And it reminds us of the 600,000 Jews that they all had parech, karpas, the same letters as hard work, and 6. or the Ketonet Pasim, the coat of many colors of Joseph, which got us down to Egypt to begin with. Parsley is a good reminder of spring, and potatoes are good in Eastern Europe where you don't have fresh vegetables. Beets are an allusion, like on Rosh Hashanah, to beat our enemies, but any vegetable qualifies. Any vegetable qualifies. I had an interesting thought when I looked on Google. Maybe you could have potatoes with parsley on top. It's a little suggestion over there. Now, we all know that there are.
Rabbi, I just want to comment that the only people who eat a damn potato would be a Polak.
Well, it's interesting in Europe, in Israel, they call Ashkenazic Jews Polani, but I'm proud of being from Poland. But we're not
Rabbi,
really
I think
Polish.
in the Yotzros, which we didn't get to say this year, right? There was a little on Shabbos Haggadah, I think there was, and that was the basis of, if I recall, one of the reasons why we should be extra careful when it comes to shul, involved with the sakana, with the danger of COVID and everything like that. I think it involved people that used used a bitter herb for karpas, and that's why we don't dip it in. Right? What was that word you had about the dipping in charoses? There was, or we do dip in charoses, even for karpas. It was mentioned in the Yotzros on.
Yes, Anshei, we're going to try to somehow preserve those yotzot, even though it takes a long time, but we're going to try to say them somewhere. And it talks about the laws, and the Rambam believes that even the celery or whatever it is, parsley, should be dipped in the charoset. So I always do both. I dip it in the salt water, and I also put it in the charoset, because the Rambam believes that is the official dip of the night. And you should always use it for all things eaten, even dip my matzah a little bit. At the end of the eating of the matzah, I dip it a little bit in the charoset. It's the official dip of the evening. Now, we all know that there are lots of four questions, or in Yiddish, the fear kashas, or in Hebrew, the arba kushiot. And we're going to have a few youngsters. We have Vered and Kutcher Kurkowski, and we have the Lubins. Do you have to go, the Lubins? Are they in a rush to leave? Are you good? Okay, great. So we'll go. We'll have Vered and Kitra, and then Aiden Kivi and Lila Senker, and then we will switch to the Lubins as well. And if any other children want to sing, so I'll just ask you each to sing maybe two of the questions, and then we will continue. So if we start with those Karakowskis, here we go.
שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה, הלילה הזה כולנו מצה, הלילה הזה כולנו מצה, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, הלילה הזה מרור, הלילה הזה מרור.
Great job, fantastic. Great. And Pat, let's see. I'm looking for hey Pat, I'm looking for Senker Kids. Anybody know their name on Zoom? Let's see. There it goes. Dina Romeo. Okay. Dina. There we go. I'm going to spotlight you. Great. There you go. You're on.
שבכל הלילות איננו מבדילים אפילו פעם אחת, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים, שבכל הלילות Anu Ochlim, Ben Yoshvinu, Ben Mesubim, Ben Yoshvinu, Ben Mesubim, Halayla Hazeh, Kulanu Mesubim, Halayla Hazeh, Kulanu Mesubim.
Great job. Terrific. Aiden, Katie, and Lila, great job. And now we turn to the Lubin family. You got to unmute and we'll hear from you.
So like, can you unmute? No, I don't. Oh. What are we supposed to be doing?
Oh, the Manishana. Go ahead. Take it away. Manishana. Manishana.
I don't have it.
Okay, let's go to the screen. We'll go to the screen so you can read from there. There we go. There we go.
Hallelujah. Anu Ochlim, Hametu Matzah, Hametu Matzah, Halayla Hazeh, Kulanu Matzah, Halayla Hazeh, Kulanu Matzah, Shebechol Hallelujah. Anu Ochlim, She'ar Yerakot, Halayla Hazeh, Nur Maror, Halayla Hazeh, Maror, Shebechol Hallelujah. Anu Ochlim, Ben Yoshvinu, Ben Mesubim, Halayla Hazeh, Halayla Hazeh, Kulanu Mesubim.
Great job. What do you say, everybody? How about you can unmute yourself and give a round of applause to all of our children, to Celia, Brooke, Bennett, and Ari. Thank you. And to all the children who participated, we thank you. Didn't they sound great, everybody? What do you say?
Yes.
Fantastic. And of course, we can't do a complete Seder tonight, just a mock Seder after all, but we did want to give some highlights over those wonderful questions. And we know that there are a lot of fours tonight. There are 4 cups, there are 4 sons, the wicked son, the good son, the bad son. There are no bad sons, they're all good. They're all at the Seder. The 4 questions, 4 languages of redemption, which are on our beautiful blue covers in our Torahs. I will take you out, God says, I will save you, I'll redeem you, I will take you as my people, because there are 4 ways that God says he's going to save us. So there's a lot of 4s in our Haggadah. But there are also, as I pointed out over the years, there are 4 stories as told in the Bible itself, all of which appear in the Haggadah in some truncated form. But today, we'll call it tonight, we'll pretend it's tonight, we're going to read the 4 stories from 4 readers in our congregation who will read for us. So I'm not going to highlight their faces, I'm going to highlight the text, and I'll tell you who's going to be reading. Sally's going to be our first reader. So we begin with Avadim Hayinu. Our first story is a story of the physical salvation, going from slavery to freedom to coming to the land of Israel. Sally, take it away. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
We're slaves in Egypt to Paro, and Hashem, our God, took us out of there with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Avadim Hayinu leparo b'Mitzrayim, v'yotzianu Hashem Elokeinu, misham biyad chazaka v'uvizroa netuya. And Hashem, keep going? Yes. And Hashem showed signs and wonders, great and sore, upon Egypt, upon Paro, and upon all his house before our eyes. And he brought us out of there that he might bring us in to give us the land which he swore to our ancestors. And Hashem commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Hashem our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us, alive as it is to this day. And it shall be righteousness unto us if we observe to do all this commandment before Hashem our God, as he has commanded us.
So you'll notice that the Haggadah here starts with slavery and it ends with our servitude to God, because that's what it's all about. We went from servitude to nonsense to power to a dictator to worshiping God and serving God instead of a human being. And we have some wonderful Haggadahs that we'll be displaying throughout the presentation as well. Story number 2 that we say in Haggadah will be read by Debbie Weinstein. Let me hear your voice, Debbie. Don't forget to unmute. We'll wait for her to unmute. And she'll be reading story number 2. The story number 2 is more of a spiritual and economic ramifications of we'll talk first about the spiritual ramifications, how we used to worship idols. Debbie, can you take it away? Just don't forget to unmute the left bottom button. And if she's not available, we can ask one of our other wonderful participants to read for us. Michelle, would you like to read for us? Michelle comes last. Wonderful new participant in our congregation. Would you like to read that for us? You should unmute yourself.
There we go. I was struggling with the phone.
You can just read the English if you like.
Okay. At first, our ancestors were worshipers of idols, but now the omnipresent one has brought us close to worship him.
And there's a beautiful rendition of the Haggadah, how Abraham is destroying the idols. So,
the Haggadah's, trying to read this off the phone. The Haggadah story goes on, not sure what the 2 is for. So says Hashem, the God of Israel, your fathers dwelt of old time beyond the river, even Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods. And I took your father Abraham from beyond the river and led him throughout all the land of Canaan and multiplied his seed and gave him Isaac. And I gave to Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. And I gave to Esau Mount Seir to possess it, and Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. And I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt according to that which I did in the midst thereof. And afterwards I brought you out. And I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came unto the sea, and the Egyptians pursued after your fathers with chariots and with horsemen unto the Red Sea. And when they cried out unto Hashem, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians and brought the sea upon them and covered them. And your eyes saw what I did in Egypt. And you dwelt in the wilderness many days. And I brought you into the land of the Amorites that dwelt beyond the Jordan. And they fought with you. And I gave them into your hand. And you possessed their land. And I destroyed them from before you.
Yes, so it ends on the Jews going out. They went out with great wealth. But the story begins with worshiping idols. And then we come to worship God. And eventually all the stories end with going to the land of Israel. The Haggadah often doesn't tell the part about going to Israel because the Haggadah focuses more on just going out of Egypt. Just what happened that night. That's the teachable moment where we went out of Egypt that night. And now Dr. Yafi, who's actually in Atlanta right now, will read the story number 3. It's also found in the Haggadah. We're just going to read all the biblical verses that connected with a story of rags to riches. Vakasha, Dr. Sherwin Yafi. Butch.
And he said to Avram, you shall surely know that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. But you will go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. And in the 4th generation they shall come back hither, for the iniquity of the Amori is not yet full.
Yes, so this is where God is speaking to Abraham, and he tells him that we will be slaves for 400 years, as we were, but then God will judge the nation that afflicts us, come out with great wealth, and the 4th generation, that will be Levi, Levi, Amram, let's see, Levi, Kahat, Amram, and Moshe, fourth generation, will come back to the land of Israel. We only came when the Canaanites were so sinful that we were entitled to take over the land. And now for the fourth story, which you also read in the Haggadah, which again we're giving the full biblical expansion of it, was from Lenny Mervis, and how we were once just a wandering people, and now we are coming back to the land of Israel. We turn to Lenny Mervis to read that for us.
Okay. Arami Oved Avi, a wandering Aramean, was my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and he became there a nation great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians dealt ill with us and afflicted us and laid upon us hard bondage. And we cried to Hashem, the God of our fathers, and Hashem heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our oppression. And Hashem brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with great terribleness and with signs and with wonders.
One more verse.
And he has brought us into this place and has given us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey.
So in the Haggadah, we don't mention this last verse, but we should know that it's all part of it. All the goal of the Exodus was to go to Mount Sinai, to get the Torah, to worship God, to have our freedom, to have wealth, and also to go to the land of Israel. So we should know that's the eventual goal. It's mentioned in a number of places in the Haggadah, particularly in the Dayenu, but really we focus just that night about going out of Egypt itself, because even that moment, as we say, is Dayenu. So what there are four stories. There are four questions that the children read so nicely. Well, what are the four stories all about? And we went out of bondage. We have come to worship God. Went out with great wealth. We used to wander. Now we have land. It's about physical freedom. It's about spiritual freedom, economic freedom, and national freedom. And if we ask ourselves, what is our story of our families in America? Which narrative did we experience in coming out of Poland or Lithuania or other countries we come from? Greece. We got physical freedom, spiritual freedom to worship as we wish, economic freedom to develop wealth, and national freedom. That's those of us who have chosen to live in the land of Israel, like many of your children and relatives, and Iris's children just had a baby. Gabby, her granddaughter, just had a baby in Israel. These are people who have national freedom as well. And now, for what we've all been waiting for, the demonstration of traditional charoset making. David Koretsky is the grandson of Larry Brown, and he's been with us on and off now for some time now. And we're so glad he's with us. He's very into food, and he's going to show us a little bit about how he makes charoset. So we're going to spotlight him. Just going to find that. And there he is. We're going to spotlight him, and he will tell us about how he makes the traditional charoset.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Rabbi. All right, so I set up a little demo here, and it's really simple. I like to keep my recipes simple. 5 ingredients or less. This one's only 4. I've been making the same charoset for years. I actually just called my mother yesterday just to double check to make sure that I hadn't left any details out. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to switch to chef view, and I will let you guys see exactly what I'm about to do. All right, there is chef view. So first things first, most important ingredient for charoset, that is apples. I like to use a Fuji apple for charoset. And here I have got some hand-grated Fuji apples. I simply took my apple, I peeled it, got myself a grater, and just shaved it right down until I got to the core, and then pitched the core. First thing, apples. Like I said, I use Fuji, and you can use any kind of apple you want. Those are ready to go. Next thing you're gonna need is some sort of nut. I use walnuts, but some people prefer to use pecans, or also I've heard almonds get used, but for all intents and purposes here, we're using walnuts. So right
you could have used Larry.
Oh, Zadie. All right, so we got the nuts in here. We've got, just so everyone knows measurements, I put 5 apples in, And for my nuts, I use a half a cup of nuts. You can use up to 2/3 if you like things a little extra nutty. So I like to just give that a little stir just to get that combined. And the next thing we have here is some cinnamon. Use 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. It looks like a lot, but once it mixes in and you get the wine in there and it blends up, it's quite nice. So give that a quick stir. And of course, you can use any type of apple you like. Some people like a more tart apple, so they'll go with more of like a Granny Smith, but you can use Red Delicious too, whatever you like. And the final thing is we're gonna give this a nice little dressing. And that's just some sweet red wine. Today I've chosen to use the Rashi Light Red Concord. And I like to use a sweet wine just because some people add sugar, but I'm not a fan of adding extra sugar. I just use what's already there. You can use Kedem. This is a light wine. It's a really light alcohol. And just give that a blend up. And there you have it, folks. It's really that simple. 4 ingredients, a little bit of time. And I like to cover that and let it sit in the fridge. And that's all there is to it.
Wow, that was really great. Thank you. And thank you. That chef view is particularly appreciated. And we appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And hold on a second. Just going to change the old. And this time I would like to call on Diana. She was going to tell us a little bit about her modern interpretation of the Charoseh. And we'll turn to Diana Lazar.
Okay, mine actually came from my grandmother. I went back to this when my daughter became allergic to all nuts and apples. So my grandmother came out of Palestine, and this uses apricots. I don't know if we can you see?
Put it closer to your face.
Okay. I think we lost me.
No, we see you. Just put it closer to your face. Yep, there it is. We see it.
Okay, so it uses apricots. It uses dates. It uses pistachios. And it uses date paste. It actually is supposed to use pomegranate paste, but in the last few years, I haven't been able to find that kosher Pesach, so I just switched to the date paste. And today I just made it myself with a food processor and wine. Mix them all together and stir them up. Put a little bit of cinnamon in them. And there it goes. It's a Middle Eastern Palestinian Charoseh, so very Sephardic. More like a paste, very different from what you see originally.
Great. Does Marty want to make a very pre-aids and taste it and let us know how it tastes?
1, 2, 3. All right. Fried them up. Really good.
Ah, that's good. This is sweet. Very good. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's very similar to what I was going to show you regarding the Sphard-Beth Charoseh. We have a video about that. Don't forget, we have a lot of Pesach videos you can look at that I've done over the years. The Rambam gives us a recipe. Rabbi Salvador used to joke that that the Rambam, Maimonides, became like a little bit of a chef when it came to Pesach, both in his commentary to the Mishnah and in his magnum opus, Mishnah Torah. He mentions dates. He mentions figs as a possibility too. Never did that. Diana was able to get these for me from Oh Nuts. Look at the gorgeous date, and some raisins. And then he mentions put in some vinegar. So I've got some kosher Pesach wine vinegar, and then you put some cinnamon. He mentions other possible things also, hyssop or lavender. I don't know how that would work exactly. and then you just mash it together, and then you cook it over a stove, put it in a saucepan or a frying pan, and just as it gets softer, you keep mushing it and mashing it, and then it turns into a paste. And I have some ready made over here. It looks kind of strange, but it is really very, very delicious. At our Seder, it's really the most popular one. Now, it all has something in common: fruits. The Tosfot says that the reason it's okay to use fruit is because in the Song of Songs, which we read on Pesach, somehow we'll read it this year somewhere, it compares the Jews to the fruits, to the figs, to the dates, to the nuts, and right, a lot of us are probably very good at being nuts. And since it compares us to that, we have this because God loved us so much. The apples are very evocative also, and then the Talmud says it should be sweet, it should be bitter. So it kind of reminds us of both the bravery of some of the women who seduced their husbands under the apple tree, who kept the family going under the apple tree, and the love of God and of the Jewish people, and He saved us. It also reminds us of the slavery and the mortar and the brick as well. So it has both elements. It almost tells the whole story from slavery to freedom. Great. We move on with our program. Fantastic presentations. We thank you. All the presenters thus far have been really super duper. There's a classic look. That one's not as red as the one my mother made, but it's a look. Maybe they use white one. Here's some different looks of different charoses. You want it to be a little bit mortar-like, and that's certainly good. Rambam mentioned vinegar, dates, raisins, cinnamon, maybe oregano or lavender, but it never used those last two as well. Diana Lazar, that was, apologize, it's not modern, it's very ancient and it's very Sephardic, and that's great. Thank you. We move on to matzah. Of course, right now we're not eating matzah. For the 2 weeks or 4 weeks before Pesach, try to avoid the matzah. But the egg matzah is very, very much in demand. It's hard to find it in Kroger. We have some left over from last year. But the egg matzah is, of course, very delicious. And there are different opinions. Sephardic Jews think you can eat it on Pesach. And this year, when Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach falls on Shabbos, they would eat egg matzah for Shalosh Shudas, the third meal. However, we Ashkenazi Jews don't eat egg matzah on Pesach unless we have trouble with eating with our teeth. But we could eat egg matzah up to the time of prohibition, up to Shabbos morning on the eve of Pesach. We can eat it this Shabbos. If you want to keep your house more clean, we could eat the egg matzah this Shabbos, next Shabbos, until about 11:30ish. We got the exact times. You can eat that egg matzah. So it's this year is really the year of the egg matzah. But we don't want to eat matzah itself until Pesach night. So we enjoy the matzah, but we appreciate the matzah very much. Maror, some people eat the slices. Some people eat the romaine. Some people grind it up and have more of a ground, sort of a white ground up kind of thing. Anybody here have anything to tell us about what they do for maror? My cousin is really
Rabbi.
Yes.
It's ours.
Yes.
It's a tradition from Ronald's family. Of course, we grind the horseradish. Now I use my Cuisinart, but it was always a contest of how hot it could be. And and Ronnie just tasted my horseradish because I just ground it this week. And it's very hard to get, it's hard to get in Memphis because there were a couple of people that would go around and collect. The grocery stores don't get a lot of the fresh horseradish, but I want to mention Ira Weinstein was the most famous horseradish maker in the community.
He thought so.
And he would always.
There was a close second too. Velveet's hot stuff.
Right, of course, Wolfie Levine weren't they in competition, I think, or maybe
right,
not.
exactly.
They were both great.
You're right, and they went and collected all the horseradish, and when I got there, I would have to order special for them to get it for me because they had already hit the grocery for all the horseradish. That's a Pesach story.
Yes, it's a big challenge in Memphis to really get it. So my cousin's a professor of agronomy from Cornell University, and he's become a teacher at Heschel School in New York. And he's writing a Haggadah. I think it's coming out soon. And he's a big expert on these things. This is what he emailed me. He says, lettuce or romaine is the best. Prickly lettuce is even better. It even grows wild. Then there's tamcha. The Talmud says, the Mishnah says, and there are various possibilities. He's not even going to try on that one. There's something called holly in English. Oregano, I don't know if that's what our oregano. And then he does mention endives. And then he says, yeah, anything that's bitter is good. Some people say that what we use is really like the potato. We mentioned before that in Eastern Europe, you couldn't get anything fresh. So they had this in their cellar. It lasted all winter. It was a root. It's like a potato. So it lasted. That's why we use it. But really, that the romaine lettuce is better. Now, is it bitter? Anybody can guess. But there are those who suggest other things like prickly lettuce. You see on the left there, looks like a weed. The ulshin, the chicory, also looks like a flower. I don't know exactly how one gets it, but these are other suggestions, and it's hard to actually. We don't have a tradition about that. So when I first heard this, that this was preferred, I was thought it was very revolutionary. But now there are great rabbis at YU and other rabbis. They're starting to look down on the old style horseradish, even though it's much more bitter. So the question is it supposed to be a bitter or is it supposed to be more of an herb? So that's the question. So we hope that you will, it'll be nice and bitter, like someone will win the contest this year, but ultimately we hope that we should be done with all the bitterness and good and sweet things represented more by the charoset and will come to be shortly in our time. At this time, we're going to turn over to the Chazan for a few Pesach songs, and we suggested a few songs here, and here we go. Hishamda.
Okay, well, growing up, we had one tune, and now lately we started using a different tune. So here's the old tune first. Vehi she'amda lavoseinu v'lanu. Vehi she'amda lavoseinu v'lanu. Shelo echad echad bilvad amad aleinu. Shelo echad echad bilvad amad aleinu. Shelo echad echad bilvad. Shelo echad echad bilvad. Amad aleinu l'chaloseinu. Ela shebechol dor v'dor. Ela shebechol dor v'dor. Omdim aleinu l'chaloseinu. Ela shebechol dor v'dor. Ela shebechol dor v'dor. Omdim aleinu l'chaloseinu. V'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. V'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. And of course, there's a newer tune that came out recently. It's a beautiful tune, and it goes like this. Vehi she'amda lavoseinu. Vehi she'amda lavoseinu v'lanu. Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu l'chaloseinu. Amad aleinu l'chaloseinu. Ela shebechol dor v'dor omdim aleinu l'chaloseinu. L'chaloseinu. V'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu. Matzilenu miyadam. La 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 la. Lie, 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 la, la, lie, lie, lie. La, la, lie, la, la, lie, lie, lie. La 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 la. And of course, you're supposed to lift up your cup while you sing all that. So we have a contest who can not spill their wine while we sing. We take all that time to sing that. So, and that is a skill. Okay, I see Dayenu on the screen. Guess that means I'm supposed to sing that. Okay, that we all know. You can unmute and join in if you'd like. Ilu asava em shvatim velo asa velo heyem velo asa velo heyem dayenu 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 Ilu asave lo heyem lo harages bichorehem lo harages bichorehem dayenu 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 Ilu harages bichorehem lo nasan lanu es mamonam lo nasan lanu es mamonam dayenu 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 dayenu.
Final song is Chasal Seder Pesach. This is Adirhu.
You ready for that now? Okay. Adirhu, Adirhu, Yivne Veisa Bekaro, Bimehera, Bimehera, Biyameinu Bekaro, El B'nei, B'nei Veischa Bekaro, Bachur hu, gadol hu, dagul hu, yivne beiso bekarov, b'meheira, b'meheira, b'yameinu bekarov, el b'nei, b'nei veischa bekarov. Lishana, no, Chasal.
You can tell Chasal if you like. The final, it's interesting, this prayer, it looks like it's the final prayer of the Haggadah, but it's really the final prayer of the Yotzros, the special prayers that Anshei always says on Shabbos, except for during Corona, on the Shabbos before Pesach. At Chasal Seder Pesach, we discussed all the laws. So if you like, you can start there if you'd like.
Well, I'll do, if I can do two of them, please. One tune that heard from my father and that we do at our Seder, and it goes like this. Chasal Seder Pesach kehilchaso kechol mishpato v'chukaso kasher zachinu l'saderoso kein nizke lasoso zach shochein me'ona komem kahaladas mimana Bekarov Nile nitechana, Peduyim letzion, Berina, Lishana haba, Birushalayim, Lishana haba, Birushalayim, Lishana haba, Birushalayim. And then we'd sing Lishana haba, Birushalayim. But there's another tune, which I don't really have an opportunity to sing that much. Sometimes I'll hum it at our Seder, I'll sing it, and that is, I believe, from the Satmar Hasidim, and I believe it goes like this: Chasal Seder Pesach kehilchaso kechol mishpato v'chukaso kasher zachinu l'saderoso kein nizke lasoso zach shochei me'elna komem kahaladas mimana bekarov na'el nitechana peduyim letzion ayay 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 biri Berihina Chasal Seder Pesach Gil Chasal Kol Mishpato V'chukaso Kasher Zachinu L'sader Oso Kein Nizke La'asoso Zach Shochein Me'ona Komeim Kahala Das Mimona Bekarov Nael Nim Techana Peduyim Letzion Ay 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 Berihina. And it's like this song that never ends. You keep going back and doing it over louder and faster each and every time. So
Thank you very much, Chazan. And we're kind of running out of time, but it's beautiful that just yesterday all the flowers started to blossom. The spring season has begun. It's the Chodesh Aviv. This is a month of spring. It's the spring of the Jewish people. We hope for good things, good times, good vaccinations, good opening ups yet to come, and all good things. And the Sfas Emes thinks that when we get out of Egypt, it's not just the ancient Egypt, but there are other things that we're meitzar. Meitzar is when you're stuck, you're squeezed between two things, rock and a hard place. What are our straits? What are our rocks and hard places that we want to get out of, and we're hoping for, and we're praying for, and how would we like to spring out of it and get out of it? So as we celebrate the salvation of the past, let's hope that we're saved from the quandaries of the present as well, and we can get out of our stuckness and our straits, and we can have a redemption, not only national but also individually as well. So thanks to everyone for joining us. This concludes our formal part of our Seder. If anyone wants to stay on and schmooze, we can certainly do that. And we welcome everyone to give further comments on other special things that you think you do in your family, maybe nobody else does. And we're open and willing to hear that as well. I see some chats over here. Let's see. Some say thank you. Very good. And we have some thanks, and we appreciate it. Very, very much. And actually, Butch is in Dallas, so we thank him for joining us all the way from there. Any other questions or comments or traditions or greetings?
Thank you, Rabbi and the cantor and everybody. It was so moving to me to see the kids and the recipes and people who shared their plates, and it was really, I didn't expect to be so moved by it, but it was very special. Thank you.